President Miguel Diaz-Canel, who is still very much doing Raul Castro's bidding, said he will not tolerate any protests as the nation grows restless. Several Cuban citizens have gathered outside of Havana in protest in demand of action. So what happens if the power does not come back soon? Well, will the communists finally lose power if the people decide enough is enough? Joining us now is Darren Beattie, founder of Revolver News. Darren, what say you?
Well, great to be with you again. And yes, this is a very interesting story. It's an illustrative story. You know, one of the iconic depictions of the difference between the free capitalist world, which I think that phrase deserves an asterisk at this point, at least as it applies to the United States. But there's an iconic juxtaposition of North Korea and South Korea by satellite at night. And one of the defining features of North Korea, the communist state, is that there are no lights. It's a complete blackout. And in that case, it's such a perfect comparison because it's literally the same people. The only thing different is the form of governance, and that makes the difference between having lights, vibrant cities that you can see from space, and a total blackout. And so I think there's something symbolic about the blackout, about the grid going down. It's symbolic of a failed state and failed governance. We see this, for instance, in South Africa. Not necessarily a communist. I mean, communist can mean a lot of things, as it's often inflected by the culture, the underlying population, the demographics, and a lot of other factors. Communism can look very different in different parts of the world. But in the case of South Africa, you have the same feature. You have rolling blackouts. It's an example of the collapse of state competency. And of course, you see that now, unsurprisingly, but tragically. I feel bad for the people of Cuba. You see this in Cuba, but it's not terribly surprising given the form of governance there. As to whether or not this will kind of catalyze any kind of meaningful political resistance, I'm not an expert in the domestic political situation of Cuba, but my sense would be I wouldn't hold my breath on that. After all, you know, Fidel had been in control for how many decades and nothing happened there, and they had to deal with a lot worse than, you know, some blackouts. So my sense is the underlying reasons why there hasn't been a kind of uprising, those reasons are impervious to even these kind of flagrant and egregious manifestations of state incompetence and corruption.
Well, there's also the geopolitics of China, Venezuela, and Russia, who all seem to have vested interests in Cuba. It's a friendly nation to them and a strategic one in terms of its proximity to the United States. I imagine that those adversaries are not going to let Cuba go down too far. Nonetheless, it's interesting that at this point in time, there does not seem to be a lot of support coming in from those key allies for Cuba.
Yeah, it's curious. Maybe they're just concerned about the optics of it. Maybe there's some kind of internal situation. You know, there are always internal power struggles, and you know, a change of dictator is not always a change of regime, and in fact, many times it's not. And it could be a situation where the specific figurehead who's running things now needs to go, and this is going to serve as a pretext to do that.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.